I will introduce to you 7 real objects that are either haunted or cursed. Let's start with the first item, which is the Swansea statue. This statue is made of wood, and it's called Swansea because it was created by a man in Swansea. This statue is often referred to as the Devil's Statue, Swansea or Onyx. The curse associated with this statue is related to the following story. Around the 1890s, there was an old church in Swansea. Many people believed that the church needed to be rebuilt, so they issued a request for everyone to submit their designs for the church. The person who submitted the best design would be chosen. At that time, there was a man named Arthur Blomfield, a very famous architect, and many people submitted their designs. Arthur Blomfield's design was the one chosen, so he was very happy. However, something strange happened among those who submitted designs. There was a man who was very angry because his design was not chosen. He thought his talent was being disrespected, so he became bitter. Later, the church was rebuilt according to Arthur Blomfield's design, and a few years later, a row of houses next to the church was put up for sale. The bitter man bought that row of houses, demolished them, and built a brewery on that land. On top of it, he placed a wooden statue that he had carved himself. The statue was positioned to face the church. Afterward, he cursed the statue, saying that when the church was destroyed and burned, his statue would still sit there smiling. Then, during World War II, specifically in 1941, the church was bombed and severely damaged, even catching fire. But the wooden statue remained completely unaffected. It can be said that the man's curse came true. After some time, when the war ended, the church was rebuilt according to Arthur Blomfield's original design, while the brewery was shut down and the statue was lost. Later, a man found the statue and placed it back in its original position. Later on, a shopping center was built where the statue once stood, and the owner there brought the statue to a museum. The statue is currently on display at the Swansea Museum. Overall, this statue only carries a curse related to the church and that specific time, so it can be said that the statue is not that frightening now. The second item is called Busby's chair. This chair carries an extremely terrible curse, and it is related to the following story. Around the 1700s, there was a man named Thomas Busby, who is also the main character, and another man much older than Busby named Daniel. Their houses were quite close to each other. One day, Busby stopped by Daniel's house, and the two of them talked. After a while, they discovered that Daniel was producing counterfeit money. After more conversation, Daniel convinced Busby to join him in counterfeiting money, which Busby agreed to. The two of them then began their illegal work of producing counterfeit money at Daniel's house very frequently. Daniel had a daughter, and as Busby worked with Daniel many times, he became acquainted with Daniel's daughter, and the two of them truly fell in love and even organized a wedding. Everything went very smoothly for Busby, but one day something shocking happened. One day Busby was very drunk and came home. When he entered the house, he found his father-in-law, Daniel, sitting in his home. Daniel looked very angry and said that Busby had treated his daughter very badly. The two of them started arguing, and since Busby was drunk, they began fighting. Daniel was thrown outside, but then he got up thinking that Busby was too drunk to hear anything more. Daniel decided to go home and talk to Busby later. At this point, Busby, very angry, made a very wrong decision. He grabbed a hammer, walked over to Daniel's house and entered. He then killed Daniel in his home. Later, the police discovered Daniel's body, and in 1702, Busby was arrested and sentenced to death. Before the execution, Busby had a request to drink at his favorite bar. So he entered the bar, sat in a chair, and ordered a drink. After drinking, he stood up and did something quite unexpected. He turned back, pointed at the chair he had been sitting in, and cursed it, saying that anyone who sat in this chair would die. Not long after he was executed, after some time, strange events began to happen. One day, another man entered the bar, sat in Busby's chair, drank, and then left the bar. Later, he was found dead, and after an investigation, it was revealed that he had been killed by a friend. Another man, a builder, entered the bar, sat in Busby's chair, ordered a drink, and then returned to work. A few hours later, while working on a rooftop, he accidentally slipped and fell to his death. On the same day, some pilots entered the bar, sat in Busby's chair, and later went off to fight in a war. They never returned, and it was believed that Busby's chair had caused around 60 deaths. Later, the bar was bought by a man who knew the stories related to Busby's chair, so he decided to bring the chair to a museum for safety. Currently, Busby's chair looks like this and is displayed at the Thust Museum, hanging high to prevent anyone from sitting in it. After some time, a historian researched the chair and concluded that it was made around 1840, while Busby was executed in 1702. Therefore, the chair and Busby are not related to each other. However, all the accidents caused by the chair happened after 1840, so even if the chair is not related to Busby, it still carries a very terrible curse. The third item is the Hope Diamond. This is a fairly large diamond weighing around 45-52 carats and has a dark blue color due to some impurities inside. This diamond carries a curse, and it has brought misfortune to many people. The story of this diamond begins in 1653, when a French man named Ton, an expert in buying and selling diamonds, visited a diamond mine in India. There he discovered this blue diamond. As soon as he saw it, he was certain that he had to buy it. At that time, the King of France was King Louis XIV. Ton went to meet the king to sell this blue diamond to him. The king loved the diamond and bought it from Ton, naming it the Blue of France. Now later, the king fell seriously ill with a disease called gangrene and passed away from it. The next notable story is about King Louis XVI, who inherited the blue diamond. From the moment he acquired it, this king and his wife were publicly executed during the French Revolution. Afterward, the diamond was lost. The diamond originally came from France and somehow it ended up in England. In England, many people owned it. Between 1830 and 1839, the diamond was owned by the Hope family. In this family, the diamond was owned first by Henry Philip Hope, then inherited by his son Thomas Hope, followed by his daughter Annie Adel Hope, and finally by his grandson Lord Francis Hope. Because the diamond had been in the family for so long, it became known as the Hope Diamond. Later, the diamond was owned by a woman named May Yohei, who was a famous musical actress. After acquiring the diamond, she went through many divorces and remarriages and eventually died in poverty. After some time, the diamond came into the hands of a very powerful man named World McLean, the owner of a newspaper company. His wife, Evelyn McLean, was also a very famous woman. After the two of them acquired the diamond, Edward McLean suffered from mental illness, and Evelyn contracted pneumonia, which led to her death. After passing through the hands of many others, the diamond eventually ended up with a man named Henry Winston. He decided not to keep the diamond, but instead donated it to the National Museum of History at the Smithsonian Institute, where it has been displayed ever since. The Hope Diamond still brings misfortune to many people, but I've only mentioned a few notable ores. Overall, the misfortune stories surrounding the diamond seem to attract more visitors than scare them. The fourth item is the Okiku doll. This is a story that happened in Japan, specifically in the Hokkaido region. According to Japanese folklore, the story goes like this. In 1918, there was a young girl named Okiku. One day, her brother gave her a doll, and as soon as she received it, she became very fond of it. Unfortunately, something tragic happened. Later, the girl passed away from a fever. The family then set up an altar for her and placed her beloved doll on it, naming it Okiku as well. The family regularly prayed for her there, and strange events began to occur. The family started hearing whispers and strange sounds. One particularly notable occurrence was that they noticed the doll's hair was growing longer. At first, these signs scared the family, but they later realized that the doll contained the spirit of the little girl, Okiku. This understanding made them less afraid. Later, the family moved away but decided to leave the doll behind because they believed the doll contained the spirit of the girl and should be placed near her grave. Therefore, they did not take the doll with them, but instead entrusted it to a nearby temple, where the monks took care of it. Currently, the doll's hair continues to grow, and the monks regularly trim it. Many people visit this location to pay their respects to the doll, but they are not allowed to take pictures of it. Overall, this story is somewhat sadder than frightening. The fifth item is Robert the Doll. Robert the Doll currently looks like this, and you can see that Robert is wearing a white sailor outfit. Although this outfit was not originally part of it, the story of the curse of Robert the Doll begins like this. In 1904, a boy named Robert Eugene Otto, commonly called Jean, or Otto, was gifted a doll by his grandfather, bought from Germany. As soon as the boy received the doll, he became very fond of it and played with it every day. He loved the doll so much that he named it Robert as well. From now on, I will refer to the doll as Robert and the boy as Otto. Whenever something unfortunate happened in the house, Otto would blame it on Robert, and the doll was often blamed for the misfortunes in the house. As a result, people believed this is what caused the doll to begin showing emotions. This is an image of Otto's house. One day, a group of children passed by Otto's house and looked through the window. They saw the doll sitting in the room, and they began to notice the doll moving from one spot to another, which terrified them. On some occasions when guests came to Otto's house and chatted, They observed that if Robert the doll was nearby, its facial expression would change, depending on the conversation topic. Later, Otto passed away and the house was bought by a new owner. This owner kept the doll in the house for a while, then donated it to a museum. This is the current form of Robert the doll. The doll is now wearing a white sailor suit, which is believed to be Otto's suit from his childhood. Currently, Robert is displayed at a museum, and many people visit to see and take pictures with him. However, the story doesn't end here. The museum has received many letters, all of which are apologies to Robert. These letters claim that after meeting Robert, the people began experiencing misfortunes like losing jobs, car accidents, or divorces. They believe that all of these things happened because they didn't show enough respect for Robert, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So now everyone who visits Robert tries to show respect for him. One interesting note is that if you look closely at the doll, you can see a small dog. This dog has no known origin. Some people believe it is Robert's personal toy, while others think it was added to increase the mystery of the story. But in general, the dog is unrelated, and the scariest part of the story still lies in the doll itself. The sixth item is the Anabelle doll. When mentioning Anabelle, people usually think of a porcelain doll that only appears in films. The movie. Anabelle was actually inspired by a real Anabelle doll, and this real doll is made of fabric and shaped like a character from a comic named Radion. The true story of the Anabelle doll goes like this. In 1970, a young college student named Donna was given a doll by her mother for her birthday. She returned to her shared apartment with a roommate and brought the doll with her to live there. Strange things began happening from this point. One day, the two girls placed the doll on a sofa and left for work. When Donna returned home, she found that the doll had disappeared, and she didn't know where it had gone. She then went into the bedroom and was horrified to find that the doll had reappeared in the bedroom, with no one having brought it there. More strange occurrences followed, including one day when Donna found a note in the house that said, "Help me." The note wasn't even written on the type of paper she used at home. This terrified her, so one day she invited a medium to come and see what was going on with the doll. The medium explained that the doll contained the spirit of a little girl named Anabelle. However, the medium also said that the doll just needed to be loved and cared for. So, if Donna and her roommate took good care of the doll, everything would be fine. Though it still remained very frightening, this is when the famous couple Lorraine and Ed Warren appeared. They are experts in studying, investigating, and collecting paranormal objects. Donna contacted the Warrens, and they came to take the doll. The doll was later displayed at the Warrens Museum with a warning not to open the cabinet. All the stories I've told you so far are based on what Edward Warren has shared. He is the one who narrated the entire story about Anabelle. Therefore, it's hard to know if this story is true or not. Some people even claim that the Warrens' collection consists entirely of fake items, not truly paranormal at all. But it cannot be denied that the story of Anabelle inspired the very successful Anabelle movie franchise. Later, the Warrens Museum was closed, and all the paranormal objects inside were moved, so no one knows where Anabelle is now, which means it could be in your house right now. The seventh item is the Dybbuk box. This is a small box designed to look like a cabinet, and it was typically used to store wine. The story of this box begins in 2003 when a box was put up for sale on eBay. The person selling the box posted a story about it claiming that it once belonged to a Jewish survivor of the Nazi Holocaust and contained a Dybbuk spirit. In Jewish tradition, a Dybbuk is a very dangerous spirit that possesses the bodies of others. Clearly, this box was said to be very dangerous. However, many people bought it, and after it was listed for sale, it was bought and sold by many individuals. All of them claimed that strange things began happening after they came into possession of the box, but later all these stories were dismissed because a man named Kevin Manis, who was the first person to find the box and list it on eBay, admitted that he had made up the entire story about the box. The box was later examined thoroughly, and it was discovered that it was not made in Israel, but was actually from New York. So most of the stories surrounding the box were not true. I can also share that, since I was young, I've heard about this box and I've always been terrified of it. I don't know why, but every time I looked at the box, I felt very afraid. Maybe I didn't know if something was inside, but now that I'm older and know the story, I'm glad I'm no longer afraid of it. The box also inspired the creation of a few movies. Okay, those are the 7 stories of 7 cursed objects, and I hope after watching this video, you'll still be able to sleep well. And if you see this video this far, please do not subscribe.